All right, welcome to Nested Loops. Doing the best interfaces, no interface. Picking up what, chapter 13, 13 and 14.
14. Okay. Okay, chapter 13, analog and digital chores. I know I suck at life. I thought that was a funny title. This guy's got a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see if I can get this to click. Okay. You say you'll do it, and then you don't. And the excuse typically is you're too busy. And the author notes about how that excuse is the number one self-reported reason why a bunch of people delay a lot of things. And there's some examples here where 70% of Australian women aren't doing what they want in life. Michigan teens haven't gotten a driver's license. Why overstressed Americans don't deal with their stress. And nearly 60% of men in the UK don't shower in the morning. And the reasons that they use are I'm too busy. Chapter jumps right into this quote from Barack Obama. I guess in Springfield, Missouri, while running for president in 2008, Barack Obama said, there's things that you can do individually, though, to save energy, making sure your tires are properly inflated. Simple thing. Book kind of elaborates about how the right thought that this was kind of crazy and, mocked him and said all these other things. But apparently, having the appropriate amount of tire pressure makes cars more efficient. They use less gas, which means you get to reduce some of our foreign oil dependency, which is actually a really well-known thing. The U.S. Department of Transportation has estimated that 5 million gallons of fuel are wasted every day because of Americans with improperly inflated tires. I think that probably was my favorite quote in the whole chapter because I did not know that. Side note that I personally am crazy about my tire pressure. It's probably because I've had a few issues with my tires recently, but I have my own individual tire gauge in my car all the time. My wife Katie used to work at a car dealership a long time ago, and our car has one of those auto sensing things. So if our tire pressure is low, there's a light. And she told me that actually was one of the servicemen's favorite things in the new cars, because 95% of the time it was actually wrong. It had to do with either the weather changing, high to low pressure or something like that, or just a problem with the mechanics of that, the tire pressure sensing thing. But I often have that go off in my car and I'll jump out and yeah, it's a real problem. So this is actually something that I'm really, really big on. And I'll go into that a little bit more in a second. Society of Automotive Engineers estimates that 260,000 accidents each year involve improperly inflated car tires. And National Highway Traffic Safety Administration found that you're 3 times more likely to be in an accident if tires are uninflated. That must have to do with if you have to make a quick turn or something and just get out. But the book states, and I agree with this, that it's not an information problem generally. It has to do with we're too busy. And it's kind of like a dirty dishes type problem. It's something that it's an annoying chore no one ever wants to really do. It goes into how when you're going to change the tire, when you're going to go inflate the tire pressure at the gas station, one, you got to find a gas station that has the air. Then it costs $1 to $2 with quarters. I think we've all been there where you either have no cash or you have to. I've withdrawn to 20 just to get dollars, just to ask for quarters, and mentions how a lot of the times the sensors at these gas stations are off by like 4 psi. And it says often those that know the importance of properly inflating their car tires don't care enough to do it anyway. So I like this sentence because I know I'm very particular about tire pressure, and I know a lot of people I talk to just they're not even aware of this problem. So it's weird because the book says most people know it's not an informational problem, but I guess just some people just don't care. The tire pressure is low. I know that I have seen people just drive right by me where you could tell just by looking at the tire that it's low, and you're like sitting there, you're like, do you have no idea? I don't know. So clearly it's something that is important to me. I main the reason why I actually pay attention to it is because I knew that it was a safety problem. If your tires are extremely low, it's one of the easier ways to.
Yeah, we have an air compressor, so we can just do it whenever.
Yeah.
Because we don't have those fancy Goodyear tires. It's open plate, so gotta keep them.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to not live in the city and have an air compressor or something. Because I mean, there's big ones too. It matters. All right. Yeah. So I didn't write down much on this slide, but Goodyear Innovation Center is coming out with these tires, and I don't know. This book was written, I guess, 2015 or something. States how these tires both know your air pressure and then self-inflate. I don't know if it's become like a new thing or if he didn't realize, but it's actually really. I think most new cars know that how much air pressure is in your tire. Depends on, I guess the how expensive the car is. My car, just a light comes on, but I've rented cars where actually will tell me the PSI per individual tire. So I think that's actually been like a thing that's been out probably for like 2 decades or something. But the more important part of this Goodyear Innovation Center is that they're designing tires that could self-inflate while you're moving, which is pretty interesting. Curious if it just ends up becoming a bigger problem down the road, or like if your tires are just end up getting inflated like every day because you're not really paying attention, that you have a small hole that you can fix with a plug. So who knows? I've never met anyone that's had a car that self-inflates their tires. So is that a thing that comes out in new cars nowadays? Does anyone know? Seems more like it was a test. I could see it being bad, because like so if you're lazy and you never solve it, and then you rely on this auto inflating thing, who knows if it actually damages the tire because the tire is expanding and contracting every day. Who knows where their studies went.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It seems like they started what? I guess he brings this up. Search tells me Goodyear started testing them in 2012.
Yeah.
But I don't know of anyone who's got one.
Right, which leads me to think that it actually hasn't. It wasn't viable either cost-wise or test-wise. Or it's a cool concept. Could just delay the inevitable though. Okay. One of the other examples is this commercial from Whirlpool, which I don't think I've ever seen, but daughters screaming, "They'll fade, they'll shrink," because she's so worried that her mother will screw up on the settings of her clothes and ruin jeans or whatever. And it was a commercial for self-sensing washer machines, and I think I may not go into this right here, but what's interesting is that even though this is a self-sensing washer machine, it still has a bunch of settings. So it's like, I guess if you just leave in that one setting, and again, I know my washer machine senses, it's probably not like this detailed, but I have 12 settings. The ones I use are delicate, bulk, because of heavy risk of like hurting the engine, and then like Energy Star Normal. And Energy Star Normal will specifically put in the amount of water that's required. So it's variable. And how long it runs is variable. So generally speaking, I think this is actually a feature that's coming out in the majority of new washing machines, because I know I didn't get like a super expensive one or anything. So self-sensing seems to be like a normal thing nowadays. This might have been like superior though, who knows. I thought this was interesting. I guess when I was going to college, I realized how much I sucked at laundry. But something like we'll skip over that. Sorry. I must not have included it. It's something like 60% of males in the UK don't know how to do laundry. I thought that was crazy. Well, I mean, if you live in the city or whatever, you drop it off. Who knows? Different cultures or whatever, but 60%, that's bad. But it does remind me when I was in college and I was trying to figure that out. All right. In my opinion, it's probably too late anyway. All right. Lots of opinion in my presentation. All right. According to Good Housekeeping, the average American family does 8 loads of laundry a week. And the washing choices aren't obvious for loads of random varying clothes. So basically, there's all these settings on a washing machine, and when you're choosing the settings, you don't even know if you're going to screw up your clothes. Is basically what this is saying. And if you're spending $1,000 on a washing machine, it should be a little bit better than that. There's an added thing about how choices cause anxiety, which result in people like just stopping in general. So one study is random people were offered 30 pieces of chocolates and ended up being less satisfied or more regretful than when they were offered 6 randomly selected chocolates. There's companies that will offer their employees mutual funds for retirement, and the more and more these companies offered or mentioned these mutual funds, the less and less the employees participated. That shocked me. But that mainly has to do with the fact that when you log in, I didn't put this in here, but when you log in for a lot of these, you can have like 50 choices for which fund you want to use, and just that process of choosing one of the 50 results in someone going, okay, I'll do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which I can tell you from personal experience. I know when I 401k, I actually did wait like a week or two. I logged in and I was like, wow, this is a crazy amount of information. Luckily, I got back to it, but I had to make a day or two to read and learn and all this other stuff. So that I actually fell for that too. All right. So we serve computers. From their roots of delight and harmlessness, you've got mail. They've grown into the endless stream of to-dos and checklists, and our lives continue to become increasingly digital. These tasks have exponentially increased because the standard paradigm is making new software, blah, blah, blah. Basically, as old world things turn digital, we have more software and more requests for you. And sometimes in this digital world, we have like an infinite loop type situation where a lot of people, they have this zero inbox or inbox zero, it's called, where they want no emails. I know some people that do this. So they'll delete or archive all their emails. They'll respond to a bunch of emails, but this is stating how if you've gotten good at inbox zero, and you're likely responding to a lot of these emails quicker or just in general. And as soon as you respond to these emails, you end up getting a response back to that. So in an effort to reduce the amount of digital chores that we have, it's possible that some of these situations are you end up getting more digital chores. And the solution, or one solution to our laundry list of digital chores is no interface tech to the rescue. Laundry machines that have senses and actually don't have a lot of buttons, I guess. Dishwashers have come out that self-sense. I have never used one of those myself, but that's cool. Very curious how it does it. And that makes sense. Anything that results in less work, great.
I know I'm the kind of guy who uses the same setting for both. We never change the settings.
Yeah, I didn't put this here, but one of the quotes was how making it up, but majority of people just leave it on one setting forever. And I think this is just me just making up from personal experience, whatever. Seems like that would be the dishwasher for more people, where they just keep it on the same setting. Laundry, it seems like people, I don't know. Personally, I've changed my laundry machine setting a lot more than my dishwasher.
Never changed any of them. I just try to, and the dishwasher, I try to get as many as possible. I want to do that for the laundry, but my mother-in-law is all anal retentive that it should never be more than like half full, kind of.
Right. The dishwasher, I change every once in a while, just purely for speed, because I have like an econo setting, which I know takes like half the time in my other settings. So I use that if I'm trying to get done by a certain time. Right. One thing is this company TripIt, which I think they said came out in like the 2000s. TripIt, embracing their mantra of automagical, creating an email address which you could forward any travel information, like an email about flights or hotels or rental cars, and they would automatically compile your trip itinerary. Your travel information just showed up in your calendar. I think that's awesome. I know that I've seen some similar things, and I know Gmail nowadays does a lot. If I have a flight and the email comes through Gmail, but this is awesome. And that's actually all the slides I have. If I wanted to try to summarize, basically we have a bunch of digital chores. We work for computers because the more and more things that are digitized, we just end up getting more interfaces or more things that we need to set. And there could be a lot of solutions with no interface, kind of like the Goodyear tires or TripIt. And yeah, I still am really blown away by this. I mean, I try to be like energy efficient and all. It just makes you feel like there's no point when this sentence of 5 million gallons of fuel, million. I had to reread that. I was like 1,000. 5 million gallons of fuel are wasted every day because of Americans with improperly inflated car tires. So before we pass it on to Don, I guess I would like to ask if anyone else actually cares about their car tire pressure, or if anyone even notices. Or I mean, I seriously know people that they'll go like years. I guess if maybe they're the type of people that go to the dealership every single time, so the dealership does it all or something. I don't know, but I know someone that has never even thought about this. Didn't even know it was going.
I'm aware because I'm always worried I'm running flat. Because I've had some flats that snuck up on me and caused damage to the tire.
Right.
But I'm not. I don't know. How often do you check? I guess because you have the gauges that tell you.
Yeah. So if my light goes on, which probably happens once every 3 months or something, I'll run it. Yeah. At least every 3. Yeah. At least every 3 months.
I mean, that's a start. If you have such a device, you can check it. Now, I'm sure there are people that just ignore that. And I know with our van that has the thing, what's interesting about that one is it takes a couple revolutions. Like I saw it go off and I filled it up in the garage, but if I don't drive like half a mile, it doesn't recalibrate.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally. I have the same experience.
Yeah, so if it tells me, I check it. That being said, I probably have less cars that tell me than cars that don't tell me. So then I go by feel. Does it feel kind of flat? I'll get out. I'll check. But I don't know.
Maybe we check more up here. Like I vaguely recall, in the winter, with trucks, after putting a bunch of sandbags in the back, lowering the tire pressure slightly during winter times, or especially if you're stuck on the side of the road, in order to get more surface contact area, because it can kind of make the tire go flatter. So I bet you some of us in New England are a little bit more aware of that, or if you travel in snowy areas. All right, I'll hand it off to Don.
All right. Let me share my screen. I was trying to get this to go.
All files.
I was trying to. I just had it pulled up full screen on Keynote. Oh well, I guess I can't do full screen.
Yeah, I just do full screen of my entire monitor.
I'll just do it this way. Okay, is that gonna be okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. So this is a new section, Adapt to Individuals. And starting off with chapter 14, Computing for One, You're Special. And there's like a whole section of this chapter where he's talking about how every person's individual, you're special. Everyone's unique. You're not just a self-centered millennial. And he has kind of a rant about millennials and the way media treats them. But he says that you've gotten this far in the book, and one in 4 Americans don't even read. So there you go. You're special. Everyone has their own preferences, desires, interests, schedule, and style of working. So he's saying all this about the individual to point out that we don't make software for individuals. We definitely don't make separate digital interfaces for every unique person. Obviously, we would have way too many things to produce and display in the amount of time we have to make software. So sometimes graphical user interfaces are actually based on a single person's view of the world, not yours. So you're a unique person, someone else is a unique person. Whoever made that interface, if it was just one person designing for themselves, to you it might be meaningless. It might be impossible to navigate. With collaborative teams or lots of people, we tend to make interfaces based on blurry qualitative averages. So the result of all this is your uniqueness is forgotten. The interface is not for you. It is for either one person and the way they see it, or for averages of all people. And to add to this, making digital products in general is very difficult. There are well-established methods of building graphical user interfaces based on years of practice. But despite repeated tools and methods, actually achieving success while aiming for the average is incredibly difficult. He quotes the stats for apps. There are millions of mobile apps available, but only about 500 of them account for 80% of all downloads. And contrary to the press-driven hype on apps, most people download 0 apps per month. I didn't look fully into the stats on this, I guess what he's saying, though, is that once you have your core apps installed, you're not typically installing new apps. So in the end, interfaces built for the average person are often representative of no one. We can all see how that's true in everything we do. So just redesign it. The problem with redesigns is that not only do they cost designers and engineers an incredible amount of time and effort, but the result is that it's painful for the user to learn how to interact with that new interface. Some things will be better for you, some will be worse, but each person probably experiences buttons moving, menus change. Wait, where's the whatever? Things change, and we all know every time Facebook changes something, we see people complaining about it on Facebook. Just an example. For years, we've seen that. So he says there's a way out. There are some people studying patterns to continuously adapt the interface to you, the individual. They take advantage of the ability to learn from your history and track your patterns and preferences. We all know that everything we do is tracked. There's all these cookies and information out there about everything we're doing. And the idea here is that maybe not only can that be used to advertise, but maybe it can be used to build better interfaces for each person visiting the site. And for tens of thousands of years, we've collected information, but it was done through rudimentary techniques. So here we'll see the evolution of information capture. 40,000 years ago, it was cave drawings. 5,000 years ago, pictorial language. 1,000 years ago, we got books. But by 1944, one of the, I think he was, I didn't write down his name, but he was one of the people involved in the Dewey Decimal System. He said that by the year 2040, Yale University Library will have, at the present rate of growth, 200 million volumes to house, requiring 6,000 miles of shelving and 750,000 drawers for the catalog index, and that storage capacity is unsustainable. Luckily, now we have the personal computer, the internet, and bits of information. So all your bits belong to us. In 1990, Peter J. Denning published a paper called Saving All the Bits. He was an employee for NASA for a while, and he argued to save every bit of information possible for future use. Some quotes from his paper. The arguments for this practice are, first, that the cost of acquiring the bits is so great that we can't afford to lose any of them. And second, that some rare event might be recorded in those bits, and to throw them away would be a great loss for science. I'm left with the impression that saving the bits is not merely a question of cost, but is a moral imperative. So what do we do with that? All the computer companies started collecting huge amounts of data. And this provided a catalyst to create larger hard drives than the standard 40 megabyte drives of the day. This kind of reminds me of, I think it was a Bill Gates quote about how much memory a computer needs. And I can't remember if it was 640 kilobytes or something like that. Yeah. Said, oh, we'll never need more than that. Yeah. Of course, now we know this is turned into big data, and there's a high demand for data and data scientists and finding meaning in all these bits. So examples, what do you want to eat tonight? What's the best way home? The author says, if we know you well enough, that is, if we have the appropriate data set, ask the right questions, and use the correct lens to interpret what we observe, we can potentially give you what you need, when you need it, and all without you even asking, which is his core idea of how we're going to build user interfaces around individuals and their data, which is a pretty cool idea. What can we do with bits? Sometimes I actually think that machine learning is not only one of the most exciting things in computer science, or is not only the most exciting thing in computer science, but the most exciting thing in all of human endeavor. I should have attributed that quote. Let me find out who it was. It was Stanford professor Andrew G. So what have we already done with data? Well, we have bidding for text and banner ads. benefit data. And the author says, wait, what?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we can do has been more motivating than what we should do when money's involved. And that's kind of been the story of what's happened with data on the internet. That's why we're tracked everywhere. And, you talk about something or search for something, and all of a sudden you've got 50 ads for it everywhere you go. A lot of companies talk about the latest and greatest in tech, and the author says that's tech's biggest lie and a grand possibility diluted by reality. He says that corporate profits and, this is him, half-witted Steve Jobs wannabes kill the wonderful solutions, beautiful products, and revolutionary ideas. Sometimes smart people with amazing accomplishments are at the whim of leaders who have unwarranted power to make decisions distant from actual operations and an ocean away from understanding the real customers and what they need. An example is that Xerox's original invention of the graphical user interface was laughed out of the boardroom. So the reality then with the corporate world is that meaningful technology accomplishments at the most influential companies are the results of successful internal political wins and not actually whether the idea is good. An example is LinkedIn, which one of the biggest features of LinkedIn is that you connect with people that your connections are also connected to. You find people based on recommendation. Well, this was come up, the whole idea was created by a man named Jonathan Goldman. And the stakeholders at LinkedIn were openly dismissive of this concept to create an interface for smart connections. But he had one ally, which was the CEO, and he gave him a very tiny part of the LinkedIn user interface for the people you may know feature. And the result was that the tiny feature generated millions of new page views and moved the company towards using data in meaningful ways and massive growth. And obviously that's what we think about with LinkedIn now, is we're going to find out who's connected to the people we know. Like, connections are everything. And before, they were just looking at it as each person being a row in a database. There was no effort to determine the actual relationships between people. You had to do that all yourself. So what if we expand this further? There's similar ideas such as movie and product recommendations, and they've resulted in enormous value for various companies. But maybe we can accomplish much more by thinking beyond the graphical user interface and into data. The author says that currently building interfaces